This is episode 198 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Andrew Reichert. Andrew is the CEO and visionary of Birgo. Birgo is a fully integrated private equity real estate investment and management firm looking to improve the lives of their clients through real estate. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to talk to you specifically because you are big on mindset, and that's my thing. And I created this podcast for the mindful approach to real estate investing. So I want to start there. How did you develop the mindset to be successful in real estate?
Well, it's a great question. And to answer it, if you don't mind, I'd like to maybe just take you back a little bit to how I got involved in
That's
real estate.
exactly what I want.
Yeah, great. Well, first of all, let me just contrast what I think is maybe a good mindset to the mindset that I had.
Yeah.
So I got expelled from high school, grew up in a bit of kind of tumultuous times as a result of that. And had the really good fortune of, after being expelled from high school, actually getting accepted to a college. And it gave me this opportunity to really turn things around. And so I started asking myself the question, like, what do I want to do with my life? And why am I here?
Yeah.
And some of those bigger questions. And so really one of the books that I read in college that changed my life was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So one of the things I liked about that book is it is a book about the mindset. You know, he talks
Absolutely.
about the poor dad mindset and the rich dad mindset, and he talks about real estate. And so that book really was the impetus for me getting involved in real estate investing and really starting to develop the mindset that has really been a lifelong journey, but starting to develop the mindset that I have today.
Yeah. What led you to that book? Did somebody give it to you, or did it just kind of like, happenstance get in there? Because it's not for someone, 18 to 20, it's not the first book that you pick up if you think mindset or maybe if you think real estate, but still.
Yeah. So somebody suggested it to me, which I'm really grateful for that suggestion.
Yeah.
And, that was, I used to go to the library and go to that section of books. And I used to just burn through them. Another one that was my favorite, I actually ended up getting it on audiobook, which at that time was like my iPod.
Yeah.
I had it downloaded on my iPod.
Yeah.
And The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People was another one that I would listen to over and over and over.
Did you ever go into like regular 9 to 5, or did you go right into real estate?
I did. So when I graduated from college, I kind of had three things going. I was doing a full-time job with a regional bank here in Pittsburgh called PNC. Great job, great bank. Still really have very fond memories of my time there, even to this day. Then I bought my first duplex the year I graduated from college with no money, I had no cash, no credit, no experience, which I'll have to tell you that story.
We'll have to find out how you got it done, because everyone's like, well, that sounds great.
Yeah. And then I also had this little financial aid consulting business. I was kind of doing three things at the same time, and had a lot of irons in the fire trying to see, what I was going to do.
Well, that's interesting though, because, given what happened during the pandemic, a lot of people now are kind of testing a few different irons now to see what will keep working, with real estate being one of them, but maybe they're not, far along enough to make that a full-time thing. So that kind of, I'm sure, resonates with a lot of people. How did you kind of start to get down to what the core thing that you wanted to do was going to be?
Oh, there are a lot of trial and error, a lot of mistakes, honestly. So with that duplex I bought, again, no money, no credit. I ended up closing on a first mortgage and a second mortgage at the same time. So this was things that banks were doing before the great financial crisis of 08 and 09, and probably why we had the great financial crisis.
Part of it.
So I walk away from closing with a check for 20 grand. And so this is like the most money I've ever had in my life. And so I take that check and I go buy some property and I refinance that and buy some more. And so I ended up getting to the point where I had 20 units. And so with those 20 units, doing the property management, the maintenance, the leasing, and then I start wanting to expand. So now I'm flipping houses I'm doing new construction. I'm third party managing some commercial property, managing my own portfolio. I was doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and so well, let's talk geographical, like where you're buying. You said Rust Belt, Sun Belt, but what geographical markers are you looking for when you're looking to make an acquisition? We talked
Yeah.
about the number. You said 100 to 150-ish range is good, but what about some of the other things that you're looking for in terms of cities, growth?
Yeah. And so we have like a 12-point checklist that we run markets through. And there's not a ton of markets that actually make it through that checklist. Interestingly enough. Yeah. So the easiest way that I can describe it is markets that are like Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
And so what I really love about Pittsburgh is it's undergirded by a strong economy, strong economic drivers. We like the meds and the eds.
yeah.
So when there's good medical and education facilities, we actually like when there's a good, strong like sports team.
I think that's really important
Helps
too.
to drive in,
Yeah.
drive culture and people.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, if you luck out with a World Series or, a Super Bowl, there's all those short-term rental owners are crushing it.
yeah, of course, Pittsburgh may never luck out with the World Series,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
maybe
Or
Super
you
Bowl.
almost have to luck out as the host. It doesn't really matter if you're the team anymore.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, it's interesting to look at those dynamics. I mean, then we're looking at cap rates. We're looking at, can we get the yield that we need? We look at just diverse economic drivers. So, here it's financial institutions and banking and, there's just all kinds of, there's manufacturing and just tons of diverse industries that fuel the economy. Technology is huge here
Yeah.
now. Google and Facebook all having major employment centers here. So we just look for markets like that.
Yeah, I like the way that you said that though, because you pick a market that you start in, for you, Pittsburgh, but I think it's smart to say like, well, that's our avatar. Let's look for other cities like Pittsburgh because we know how to work Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not going to be the same officials and everything, but we understand this kind of workforce housing. What B means in Pittsburgh isn't really B in Philadelphia. Like these are
Right.
different beasts. So I think that's really important because I have found that I think people who move too quickly, they find a deal. You may have a lot of contacts and someone says like, hey, do you want to, 80 units in Omaha? You don't know anything. You know what I mean? It like takes a long time to really learn Omaha. So how much do you do kind of out in the field saying like, hey, how much really is it like Pittsburgh? Do you send somebody there as a team go? Or are you just matching kind of the financial data versus the population growth? And like you said, eds and meds and what's in the area.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think it's kind of a broad, you got to look at all of it. We put weighting on each of those things in the 12-point checklist and then we kind of run those other markets through that filter and, just try to make a good investment decision. There's only so much you can do to analyze the market, analyze the asset, and then we try to make good decisions from there.
How would you tell someone new to the game who has some money to burn, what should they do with it now? We were just talking about potential syndications. What do you think a great option is for someone who's, ready to get started now and has a little bit of money to do it?
It's a good question. I think it depends on what a little bit of money is.
Yeah.
And it depends on the risk return profile, the risk appetite, I would say,
Right.
of that particular investor. So just one.
Yeah, let's say like, 50K. So they have enough to get into a syndication if they wanted to, if they were overall, net worth accredited, or they could of course knock out a house hack or something like that. I mean, it is very, based on someone's risk profile, but with rates high, it's like, this is where I'm always kind of going now with new investors. Like I'm seeing things a lot differently than I used to.
Yeah. Take it with a grain of salt. So I've had many friends come up to me and say, hey, like, I'm thinking about flipping this house. What do you think? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm usually pretty honest with them and just say, hey, look, you can do that, but you're going to make maybe 50 grand and it's going to suck up so much of your time.
You're going to hate every second.
You're going to hate it. You're going to hate me. You're going to hate your wife.
Yeah.
I've become a strong believer in investing in other people's funds. And, we just had this conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's very accessible now. Like our first fund, the minimum was 250K.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so we brought that down to 50K just to make it more accessible. So our fourth fund is an opportunistic fund, already has a huge pool of assets in it. And so, my very biased perspective, if somebody is like, hey, I got 50 grand, I just want to get involved in real estate, I'd be like, our fourth fund is open.
Yeah.
And that's not meant to sound like a solicitation. I just, that's my bias, but also kind of honest perspective is like, it doesn't have to be our fund, but if there's a fund like that where we already have, I think we already got 16 assets in this fund, and you can put 50K and you get exposure to 16 multifamily assets that have already appreciated over the past 18 months.
Yeah.